Hey traders, welcome back to the channel, and today I'm going to be talking to you about how to balance trading with a full-time job. Now I know a thing or two about multitasking and working full-time and learning to trade at the same time because I ran a fitness business for almost 12 years, and during that period it took me about 5 years to go from first stumbling across trading and becoming consistent. 5 years. So that 5-year period I was running the business. Now that was a 7-day-a-week business. Of course I wasn't working 7 days a week, but you don't truly switch off when you're a business owner. During Monday to Friday, I would be working anywhere between 6 and 9 hours a day on that business, and then still having to find the time for trading and other things like my own health, my own hobbies, sleep, eat, and family. And this is something that we're going to talk about today, and I'm going to give you as much advice as possible to really help you out in this scenario. Now, the first thing I'm going to run through is the resistance that you're going to encounter and likely are encountering now. So the first thing is your time restraints. Clearly, you get up in the morning, depending on where you live in the world, but I'm going to assume that you're in the UK. So you get up in the morning, depending on your family situation, you might have just yourself to get up, get changed, have your breakfast and go out to work, right? But you might also have children like I always have done. I've got 4 children now. My eldest is 14, my second is 10, then I've got a 4-year-old and I've got an 18-month-old. So I've got a real scale of different ages, but it shows that my first 2 were very young when I first started trading. So I have always had young children, always, since the beginning of stumbling on trading right to where I am now. So I know what it's like getting up in the morning, having to get yourself up and dressed, getting yourself ready for work, getting your kids ready for school or nursery, and that whole dynamic. When you're in UK, the London session usually starts around 7, 8 a.m. So that's quite a stressful, quite difficult time to manage. Even to this day, it's a challenge that I think never ends, because your life will adapt. Whether you have to go out and work, you have to adapt to that, or whether you have a work from home position, you work remotely, you've got to deal with that. If you have a self-employed position, if you have your own business, again, you're either working from home or you're going away to do that. You have to share these responsibilities with either your partner to look after the kids, get them ready for school. Maybe you're doing the school run. For many years, I did the morning school run and my partner would collect them in the afternoon. Because for me, it's either I sacrifice 45 minutes of London session by going to school in the morning, and you might be sacrificing that for your work commitments, your work journey, getting in the car and actually going to the office. Or I'd have to go and sacrifice maybe 30 minutes of New York session. And again, for you, you might be at work, because the New York session for UK time is normally anywhere between kind of 1 and 4 p.m. So you'd probably still be at work, most of you, or you'd be finishing, wrapping up and then driving home. For me, by 3 p.m, I'm done for the day and I'm off and I'm going to pick my son up from school. Before that, it was my daughter. Before that, it was my eldest daughter. So I've always wanted to have that responsibility of doing a school run. And to be honest, I've switched from doing the morning to the afternoons, then back to the morning again. And also I've moved from one county to another, moved cities. So my children have gone from different schools because of their age, and also completely different school altogether. So the commute distance is a lot shorter. I actually had to take 3 children to school in the morning, which took me around 90 minutes to get them to school, and then another 90 minutes to get them back home again after school. That was a ridiculous amount. That's like 3 hours a day of just travel, which is more than the daily commute really for the average person working a 9 to 5. And then I have to go and work in the business premises. I had an office there at the gym, and I would work there until kind of 12. I'd come home. I'd do maybe the afternoon, I would work from the home office, or I would just continue and stay there. The thing is, a resistance becomes distractions. So when you're at work, what I found was if I was trading at the office at work, I found it extremely distracting, because I'd have staff members coming in and out. I'd have clients knocking on the door. If anyone saw the car in the car park, they know, oh, Scott's in. I'll just go and say hello. And that was great. But if it comes at the wrong time and you're trying to manage things, you're trying to focus, first of all, you're spinning plates already, because while you're at work, you've got commitments, you've got to do that job right, you've got a responsibility to that business if it's your own, or if you're employed, you have a commitment to fulfill to your team, your employees and your manager for that business. You've got to keep your job for a start, and you've got to do some work. You can't just go and just not do anything and say, oh, it's all right, I'm trading. So you've got to be already thinking, right, I'm spinning plates already. So having that time block is super important. If you can time block certain tasks at certain times of the day and certain days of the week, that's the best thing. It's easier said than done. And this will really vary on what kind of working position you're in. So let's put you in 3 brackets. The first bracket's the ideal. You work from home. You've got some kind of remote position, or you're self-employed and you have a home office. Second is you're driving to a workplace and you're in an office environment, and that could be in an open office with 50, 100 other people, which can be quite difficult. You've got people looking over your shoulder. You can't really have your laptop out and TradingView open all day. Or you might have your own self-contained office, which would be a little bit easier, a bit more private. Maybe it's a smaller company, less employees, and therefore you've got maybe a few hours in the day, hopefully during kill zone hours, trading hours, where you're uninterrupted and you can manage to get a bit of screen time in without anyone noticing. And then you've got the third one, which is going to be really difficult because you're on the road. You might be a taxi driver, a truck driver, a courier, delivery person. You could be a nurse, doctor, paramedic. There's so many things that are on the road, and that is going to be something that's very, very difficult for you. And it might come to a point where, okay, if you're really dedicated to your trading, maybe you should think about finding some other employment so that you can actually have the flexibility to open a chart. And I've had that conversation with traders before, with students of mine, where I've said, okay, there's only so much you can really do. If you can only really look at the charts for like 5 or 10 minutes a day, and it always tends to be at the wrong time, you're gonna have to just go and find some other employment. And there is lots of opportunity out there. I'm not gonna say it's easy to find work, because with opportunity becomes more demand. However, there's a lot of remote positions, a lot of work from home positions now where there wasn't before COVID. So prior to 2020, 2021, most people were in an office, whereas now there's so many people that work for like insurance companies, accountancy firms, law firms, banks, institutes. They all work from home. All these call centers, you can hear their children and their dogs in the background when you're picking up the phone and you need some assistance. That could be something that you could do if you're in that third bracket there. If you're in that first bracket, you're already in that position where you're working from home. And again, as long as you're getting your work done for your employer, your boss, or your business, that's great. And then time block and say, okay, I'm going to be looking at the charts during London session, and I'm going to move my work, like if I've got phone calls, if I've got meetings with clients, if I've got Zoom calls, try and work that around so you're not distracted during a kill zone session. There's nothing worse than being in a Zoom meeting and then your TradingView alert goes off. People are like, what's that noise? Or you'll just miss it completely. And then of course doing that as well, like setting alerts during the day so that when you're working on those tasks for your employer, for your job, that you don't actually need to be staring at the charts. And that's a very big, I call it like a rabbit hole that a lot of retail traders fall into, that they're spending too much time on the charts when actually they only need to be setting alerts, doing their analysis in the morning, set that alert. When that alert goes off, that's when you look during kill zones. And if that alert doesn't go off, likely there's nothing there. So really time blocking those things can really help, as well as looking at what kind of employed position are you in? Do you need to do something about the position? Do you get out of that office that you're sharing with 50, 60 people and there's no way you can open the charts? You're going to find it very difficult to look at TradingView from your phone, and we'd really recommend not doing that. And if you're driving, you definitely don't want to be doing that, because then you're putting yourself and others at risk. Social acceptance as well. Like I say, you know, the people that work with you, if you're sharing a desk, if you're sharing an office, people are not going to understand or support what you do. So you need to make sure that you're in some kind of individual zone, whether you've got your own desk, your own room, your own office. Again, work from home if you possibly can. And that will eliminate any kind of social unacceptance of what you're doing, people asking you too many questions, which then results into distractions. So like when I was in the case where I had my fitness business, I got to a point where I'm like, I never trade from work. I will come home. If I knew I was busy during London, I'd be like, London's a write-off. I have work to do. And if I miss a trade, it was never for me. But I know that I'm trading during New York. So I'd come home where I've got my own office. Okay, I did always have like one child at home part-time, because I've got 4 kids, so I've always had young children. So we've got that distraction there, but my partner was at home anyway, so we'd share that duty. But just know that, again, I'm in a place where there's minimal distractions as possible. And then some days I know that I couldn't trade New York because I'd be in meetings or with clients, having to cover someone's shift, something like that. But I could trade the morning. So I just wouldn't go into work in the morning. I'd work from home and then get a few morning tasks done. I'd trade London, and then I know that I'm having to go out the house for New York. And it's these kind of things that you're going to have to prepare in advance. One thing that I would recommend is getting some kind of a calendar. Like I just use Google Calendar, and on the Saturday or Sunday, map your entire week. the following week. So literally time block everything. Put weekly recurring tasks in that you do every single day, like your analysis, check in Discord if you're in a community, check in like what the coaches' outlooks are compared to yours, and then putting your daily tasks in as well for your employer, for your business as well, aside to trading. And then make time for family commitments as well. When are you picking the kids up from school? Are you taking the kids to school? Are you cooking tea? Are you gonna have to clean the house? Are you going to the gym? There's all these things that you need to put in. If you time block it and use some kind of a calendar, that will really help. But yeah, multiple factors will be pulling you from your goal of being a consistently profitable trader, and know that it takes time, right? You've got to be patient with it. So that leads on to balance. And also the bigger picture is that it took me 5 years, nearly 5.5 years, to find consistency from my first ever webinar, walking in and going, what's Forex? To a point where I'm like, okay, yeah, I've been pretty consistent now for like 6 months, and this is great, and I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. What I'm doing now, it works. There's not one thing that really clicked. It's an accumulation of things over time, which is why you've got to have that bigger picture. It's the routines, the habits, the awareness, the patience, the discipline, the strategy, the mindset, all of these things that come into play to get you to that consistent state. Things like time blocking and having a calendar and planning your week in advance somehow, or having yourself in a situation where you can still work and either learn or actually trade. So again, looking at your situation, looking at your employment status, what do you do Monday to Friday? Or if you're working shifts, weekends, nights, early mornings, whatever you're doing, does it realistically work? Is it sustainable in the long run? And if it isn't, you need to go and find something else. And that doesn't mean just throwing the towel, packing your 9 to 5 and become a full-time trader, because especially when you're not ready yet and you're not consistent, that's going to put a lot of emotional pressure on you to pay the bills from trading. Even when you are consistent, you don't really need that kind of pressure. I was consistent. I still had the business. I had then a long-term plan to then sell the business and exit. And it took me 2 years from the moment I decided I am going to now actively look to sell my company that I'd had at that point for over 10 years. I'd had enough. I was consistent in my trading. It then took me 2 years to sell it. And I was still running that business at that point. But at least I was taking an income from that. So I didn't have that emotional pressure that I must make 10K this month from trading to pay my expenses and put food on the table. You don't want that kind of unnecessary pressure. So if you're finding that your employment status is stopping you from trading, don't just quit. Make sure you've got something else lined up first and transition into that. And understand that the 9 to 5 covers your expenses, and it is a blessing, not a curse. If you're in a position where you really dislike your job, but it allows you to trade, try and shift your mindset and the perspective of how you think about that working position. You could say to yourself, well, at least I'm in a position where I can trade while I'm getting paid. And as long as you're fulfilling your duties and your manager, your boss, your employer is happy, or if you're running your own business, you're doing the tasks that are needed to be done to sustain that business and to keep that pushing forwards, that's paying your bills, and it's allowing you to then work on your craft as a trader until that comes where you're basically making a secondary income from trading. And that's the way you need to think. Don't think of it as a replacement of income, because that's not really sustainable and you're gonna have to find something else after that. But see it as, how can it complement what I'm doing and how can I add multiple income streams? Diversification is key. Also remember that new things require more energy. However, they yield less returns in the short term. So what do I mean by that? It means when you start learning a new skill, you don't get paid immediately. And that's like anything, right? If you wanted to be a doctor, if you wanted to be a musician, if you wanted to be a sports person, any of these things, you have to go and do some research. You have to do an awful lot of practice. It's no different in trading, right? So it takes time. It really, really does. Like, I don't know anyone that's consistently profitable that hasn't been doing this for 3 to 4 years minimum and has been through all the ups and downs, the peaks and troughs of being a consistent trader. It starts like this and it quickly drops before it picks up again. And it's just not an uphill equity curve in terms of progress. Neither is it when you work for someone else, right? Like you're very keen when you go into a job interview, you're really hopeful, you get that job interview, you're really excited about it, you get it, you start working there, the honeymoon period's over. After 2 months, you realize you really don't like it as much as you expected it to look like. But then, some things are good about it, some things are bad about it. The same with a business. Sometimes you're really excited and you go for a period in your business that's really booming, and then other periods where you're really scraping the bottom of the barrel and you're like, I need to push through this. It's a really difficult time. I've got staff problems. I've got these problems. I don't have enough clients. There's so many problems that you encounter. And then before you know it, 2 months later, you're booming again. It's nothing different with learning a new skill or becoming a consistent trader as well. So focus on that bigger picture and think, okay, well, if this takes me 3, 4, 5 years, that's actually not a very long time. Just think about what you were doing 3 or 4 years ago and think, has much changed? You still working that same job? You still living in that same house? You still wearing that same t-shirt? So there's not an awful lot that changes in a 5-year period. People underestimate what they can achieve in a 3 to 5 year period and overestimate what they can achieve in 1 to 4 weeks. And that's why just that impatience creeps in. The journey is a long one and it is a difficult one. Anything that's worth doing or having comes at a cost and a sacrifice. You're going to be spinning a lot of plates. It's going to put pressure on you working a 9 to 5 or running a business and trading, but believe me, it's worth it. You've got to keep pushing through. And if I did it running a business that was open 7 days a week and required a lot of my mental capacity and sometimes a lot of my physical time as well, and I've raised 4 children in that period as well. I had 2 to 3 children before I had even got consistency. It's just about managing your time, managing your calendar, and managing your emotions and tweaking things over time. You're not just going to get it straight away like, yeah, this job will work. Yeah, I'll trade London every single day. Yeah, I'll do this. Yeah, I'll do that. It takes time and you will have to keep tweaking things, which is why every Sunday I get my phone out and me and my partner, we look at Google Calendar and we're like, right, what needs doing this week at home? Let's put that in. What do I need to do for work that week? Right, let's put that in. What do you need to do for work that week? Let's put that in and make sure nothing's crossing over. What do we need to do with the children that week? Put that in. You know, there's all these things and making sure that we've still got time, or I've still got time to trade and run a community at the same time and not spin too many plates. I've been in that situation where I've taken more on, I've bitten off more than I can chew, essentially. And I know now. And that's a good thing. Like, push your boundaries so you know what your limit is. And then you can just ease off and go, okay, that was the max. Back there's the minimum. I want to sit somewhere in the middle. You don't want to live comfortably. You want a little bit of anxiety, a little bit of pressure, something that gets you up in the morning like a cold shower, but at the same time not to put too much pressure on you that you crumble and get exhausted at the end of the day. But yeah, you get excited at the start. You go through that fear process because you win a couple of times and then you lose an awful lot of money, probably because you're over leveraging. This is the classic trader's journey. You're optimistic as well. Your optimism jumps in because you start to see other people and what's achievable, and people will tell you, give it 2-3 years and you'll be surprised what you can achieve. And you're like, yeah, this is great. Motivates you to keep going. That then builds confidence, especially as you start really applying strategy, proper risk management, psychology. You're learning, you're buying courses, you're reading books, you're doing all these things, surrounding yourself with the right people. You're doing really, really well. And then you take that hit back that everyone naturally does. And that gives you some self-doubt. But eventually, if you keep pushing through, you will get to your destination of consistency. And you'll find that the journey in the bigger picture, you've now accomplished it because you're still working that 9 to 5. Or maybe reduced it down to part-time hours, just something that gives you some kind of revenue so that you can pay bills. You can pay the mortgage, pay your rent, pay your food, pay your car and insurance. If you can then pull money from the markets, from prop firm accounts, or start to compound a personal, take a percentage of that and compound the rest, that will make you feel really good about your own trading, but without having to rely on the actual money that you're making from trading to pay for your lifestyle. So it does take time. It's all about that bigger picture. This is all about the preparation in advance. Like I say, everything you do needs preparation in advance. You either run your diary or your diary runs you. There's some people that will not believe in writing lists, to-do lists, checklists, diaries, because they feel like a slave to their diary. Well, if you're not a slave to your own diary that you're setting yourself in advance to make you efficient, then you're just a slave to life and everything that it comes your way. And trust me, you'll be extremely stressed and you'll be way less disciplined and way less functional. You'll get a lot less done. You'll be counterproductive for the whole week. And at the weekend comes, you're like, have I actually done anything that was actually worth doing? Or was I just like sweeping up and ticking a few boxes that just landed on my desk? You want to be in control of your destiny, not the other way around. So like, what's your morning routine like? Again, do you have children? Do you have work commitments? Do you have to travel? What part of the world are you in? What trading session are you looking at? Are you trading in London or are you waiting for New York? Are you in the US? Are you in the UK? Base your morning routine around you and your situation, not someone else. Making sure you get your analysis in. Depending on your strategy, you might do it the night before. If you're looking at a higher time frame, like a daily, weekly, or even a 4-hour, you could do that the night before and prepare. Or just get up an hour earlier. It doesn't matter that it's dark mornings in the winter. You've just got to get up and find that after a few weeks, 2-3 weeks, that becomes your new routine, and just stick to it. If you have to leave the house and go to work, you're going to have to get up earlier. Guess what? If you've got children and you've got to get up and leave to work, you've got to get up even earlier than if you didn't have children. You've just got to do it. I've never been a morning person. I've always hated mornings ever since I was at school and all through work. And I used to get up at like 7, 8 in the morning thinking that was early. Well, now I get up at about what? 10, anywhere between 10 past and 20 past 6 in the morning, and I'm getting myself straight in that shower. I've already organized the clothes that I'm going to wear that day the night before. My diary's already mapped out, so I just open my phone. Oh, I know what I'm doing at what time. It's all time blocked throughout the whole day. I know exactly what I'm doing for business. I know what I'm doing for trading. I know what I'm doing for my creative output. I know what I'm doing for my health, for my family, and I know what times I'm doing it. It's all in the preparation. You need to set alerts when it comes to your trading. We've talked about this before. So again, if you're in a situation at work where you can bring your own laptop, hopefully you're in some kind of office scenario or you're working from home, take advantage of that and do your analysis in the morning, set your alerts and only look at it when you need to. And that will instill more discipline in things like higher probability setups also. The old coffee break, yes, utilize time wisely. You know, any situation you've got, these social situations, if you've got 15, 30 or 60 minutes break at work, don't go into the staff room and start mingling and talking about other people in the office, gossiping and bitching. Take yourself away somewhere and take your laptop and study. People will laugh and joke. They'll look at you, they'll talk about you, they'll point fingers and say, this is the person that never socializes. They're really introvert, they're really quiet, they're really boring. But actually what little they know is they're stuck in that rat race and you're slowly finding your way out of that. You know, you're escaping the matrix, a lot of people call it. By doing that over time, it might not feel like you're making a lot of progress at that moment, but if you do that every single lunch break, every day, 5 days a week, 4 weeks in a month, 12 months in a year, you will be very productive over a period of a year. Like I say, people underestimate what they can achieve in a year and overestimate what they can achieve in a week. That's why they give up. They want instant gratification, instant results. And if your alert goes off and you're at work, you might have to take one of those toilet trips. We've all done that, trust me. I've done that too. Evening routine is just as important as a morning routine. And this is where you'll feel tired. It's a different tide to the morning. In the morning, you don't want to get out of bed and it's dark and it's cold and you just want to have coffee and then go back to bed, right? But you've got shit to do. You've got to get your morning routine nailed down because that's what plans and preps your whole entire day. If you start off with good positive momentum in the morning, you'll end up having a very super positive, productive day. It's just as important in the evening to reflect on your trading, reflect on what happened that day, do an end of day on your pairs and your strategy. Is there anything that you could have done differently? Did you miss a position? Did you take a loss? Was it something that you did? Or was it just probabilities playing out? Did you go off plan? Were you in a meeting? Did you take a call during a kill zone? Was it something that you could have avoided? Or was it just that's what it is? And writing these things down and journaling them in your end of day is super important, right? Making sure that, again, if you're doing an analysis for the following day, I'd recommend doing some kind of higher time frame analysis just so you know, because then when you wake up at 6 a.m. the next morning, you're not having to consciously look through all of your time frames because you already know what the 4-hour daily is doing. You just got to look at your 15-minute, your 5-minute, whatever you're doing, whatever your strategy is. You want to try and eliminate as much energy as possible by doing this and just be one step ahead for the following morning. So that's pretty much it. I mean, you've got to really make sure that you're looking at your own personal situation, your working situation. It can be done. There's lots of people that are doing it, but it's unique for every single person. So think about what your employment status is. What's your routine? Make sure you're prepared and planned ahead of time. Make sure that your evening routine is as solid as your morning routine. Prioritize things, reduce pressure from social situations, and have a bigger long-term perspective on that journey that takes a level of time. Anyway, if you're interested in learning more about how I trade, check the link in the description below for my Forex mentorship, where we cover our strategies and psychologies and coaching behind how you can learn how to trade, as well as balancing a full-time job and how to scale your income and getting funded and consistent within a 6 to 12 month period. And let me know if you like this content and make sure you subscribe for more. See you later, guys.